everyone. Very warm welcome to you all. First of all, I would like to sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. I am currently unable to able my video due to a power outage at my residence. Sorry guys, thank you for your understanding. And with that, it is always nice to see people come together on a Saturday morning like this, and we really appreciate the time you take to join us today. And with that, welcome to today's session hosted by Friends of Figma Kolkata. My name is Smriti Kulthia and I handle the graphics and creative vertical for Friends of Figma Kolkata. And it is my pleasure to be your host for today's session. I'm really excited to have you all here. Like today's session is especially relevant in the current design landscape because it is a place where technology is rapidly evolving and changing the way we think, create, and build products. And for those who are new, Friends of Figma is a community driven initiative focused on bringing together designer, creatives, and curious minds for meaningful conversation, events, and learning experiences. Our main goal was to create a space where ideas can be shared openly and where we all can grow as designers. And before we move ahead, guys, I would like to quickly go over a few guidelines to ensure a smooth and professional session. It is a request to keep yourself muted to avoid any background disruption. And since it is an interactive session, please feel free to drop your questions or thoughts in the chat box. Our team will be collecting them and it will get uh, addressed during the Q&A segment. And we sincerely ask everyone to keep the chat respectful and professional, please, to ensure a smooth flow of the session. And now, coming to the session, we are incredibly excited to have our speaker today, Sujit Kumar Pradhan. Thank you for joining us. So, Sujit is a UX designer at Google where he works on building impactful digital experiences at scale. In this session, he will walk us through how generative AI is reshaping design workflows and how, when human creativity and machine intelligence come together, they can unlock a whole new possibilities in design. I'm sure it is going to be an insightful and thought provoking session for all of us, and we are going to learn a lot from him. So, without any further delay, I would now like to hand it over to Sujit to take this forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Smriti. First of all, thanks for joining. As Smriti was saying, joining on Saturday is pretty difficult, even for me. So thanks for joining and taking your time out. To start with, let me share my screen and then we can start. Okay, just let me know when the screen. Okay, I hope screen is visible to everybody. Okay. Coming to today's session, as Smriti was talking, we will talk more about how we are reshaping the world of design. And feel free to drop your message. It's slightly weird that I don't see people to talk, so I'll try my best to do. But to start with, I want to start with something which maybe every designer can relate. It's a very common thing which I say as a checklist of perfection, which more about like you do first research, work around research, you maybe sometimes create persona, move to some kind of journey mapping, figure out your problems around design, creating some kind of a wireframe, and then basically working on the design and launching the product. I think it's something which is a very common thing we see across. But what I say personally is let's not do that. Today in this session, I'm not going to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about something very different, how our processes are changing in different companies. But before that, let me give a bit of kind of a background about myself. I'm Sujit. I work as a UX designer in Google. I joined Google recently. I work on a lot of internal tools, which includes program management and the hiring process of Google. But these are all AI and agent-enabled tools, which is there. I did my like education in BTech Computer Science from KTU University, Bhubaneswar. By the way, I was born in Kolkata. I was raised in Kolkata, so my learning language was mostly Bengali, which is there. But then I moved, and right now I'm settled in Odisha, which is there. So, yeah, from computer science, I moved as a software developer. It's not that I started as a designer, but design was more from a point of view that in the college I started more on magazine design and print media design kind of a thing, and that helped me to gain more interest. But coming out of the college, I was more into the software development industry. From that, I joined a startup in Bangalore. It was bike rental startup as a UI UX designer, and that's where I got to understand how the design works in the industry. From that, I moved to Amazon. In Amazon, it's more of the consumer facing, and there is something called as brand store. Very like a flagship product for Amazon. That's something which I've worked on. And then when the era of AI came, that's where I moved to Microsoft. And one of my project was actually Copilot Vision Camera, which is very common in the Copilot ecosystem, which is there. And as I said, I recently moved to Google. It's been 6 months, but I work on mostly internal tools in Google and agent and AI-driven interactions, which we say. Coming to today's topic, it's more about impact of AI outsource, which I call it as like we are outsourcing AI. And to start, let's talk about a bit of context, foundation about what this thing is about. And I think this is a very common phrase we keep on hearing. Instagram, YouTube, every place, every other reels comes to me like some new product comes into the market and everybody comes and says, hey, AI is going to replace designer. But the challenge for me is I don't believe it personally. My question is fundamentally, I feel this is wrong. But fundamentally, what we need to ask is it's reshaping our processes, but not something it's going to replace. That's what I don't see personally, which is there. But question around how reshape, like what is happening around that. Um, if I talk about previously, we used to invest a lot of time around execution, but we have moved across. Like now we work more on the strategy. Like every day I work on why, what kind of thing I need to work rather than how will we work on those things. So that's a very big shift. Like when I say 80-20% is a huge shift which happened in that. So we started thinking more about why and what in design. And that's what industry needs. That's what we actually talk in interviews and other processes, which is there. And this is very common, like do more with less. I think every company, every manager keeps on talking about this thing. It's a very common phrase. And as I was saying, that people say replace, but the question is, if that's the case, then why this is happening? Like why people say replacement? My thing is, it's not because of the replacement; it because of the reshaping, which is happening. And uh, let's talk a bit about how the reshaping is happening in the design. Like how do at Google or Microsoft or Amazon we work on different kind of a design process, how we have changed the design processes, how it looks completely different right now what I have started my career with. um, Now the first thing, we have evolved from definitely a manual process to a digital process, and then AI assistive process, which you keep on hearing. But if you realize, there is something very common which is like solving a problem, and that will remain constant across different places. Irrespective of what kind of processes you change, you will be always solving a problem which is there. And coming to AI agent, I know we have moved now from AI to AI agent, which is like autonomous agent. This is a very good example of on the right hand side the video is running. I recently saw this tool which is called as Lovart, and it's a AI autonomous agent kind of a thing, which helps you to basically create marketing poster and all, and just with a prompt, maybe. So that kind of a thing. So if you say it's more of from AI, we're moving to a agentic space, which is there, and the entire industry is moving towards it, which is there. Coming to the processes, we are moving out of the linear processes. It used to happen a traditional UX that you do A to B design, and then basically, okay, screen B should be there, screen C should be there. From that, we move to something called as adaptive hybrid UX, which is more around figuring out the intent, edge cases, and those kind of a thing, and rest give it to more of a machine to figure out. And then now we are in a state of which is called as contextual orchestration. So right now when we design in an industry for AI and AI agent, we don't design screens, but we design for intent and goal. Like for example, a user needs to complete X as a task. So what is the intent around it? What is the goal around it? And let the machine figure out how to reach there. It can be A to B, it can be A to C, it can be A to Z, any kind of thing. As a designer, we don't have to. It's more of a we are moving to orchestration state, which is, and that's a part of design processes. Like it's keep on evolving, it's keep on changing with different kind of technologies into the market, which is there. Um, Talking a bit about how AI is influencing in design and how it's changing the shape of design. I think one of the thing I think a lot of people have heard of about secondary research. I know a lot of people don't do it. It depends on the project to project basis. But the question is, if you're still doing a secondary research in a very traditional way, I feel you are running very back in the race, which is there. So let's start using, as I said, different kind of AI to basically do different kind of processes, optimize the processes. And one of the thing is definitely a secondary research, because there was a time when I used to go to every website, read around it, figure out what to take around it, and then see what is the relevance of that. But I can do it right now, maybe in one day, not even one day, maybe in 4 or 5 hours. That's there. So we need to start looking into what are the optimized process we can do, how can we move faster and give more to the creativity. Like what are the things you need to put in secondary research, that's something your thinking process, it's not the AI's. But how to do it technically, that's something, leave it on the AI. Like how do you gather those data around. Coming to something called as synthesis, I mean, everybody does a primary research, which is there. Maybe you talk with a user, or maybe there is a survey and those kind of thing. The most difficult part for personally for me is synthesizing. I mean, it takes a whole hell lot of a time, and the challenge is it's a very manual process. When you're synthesizing data, it's very difficult, because you are reading through the same thing again and again. For an example, when I go for an interview with a user, I record everything, I write everything. Then again, when I'm synthesizing, I go back to the recording, go back and forth in the recording, figure out what they have done. But I think with AI, it helps in synthesizing. Like, I mean, you can quickly do it. It's a very fast process. It's based on the fact which already is present. So start looking into those things. How do you make yourself upskill? When people talk about upskilling as an AI based designer or AI enabled designer, I think this is what people are talking about. How do you use it? Which is there. And it's a very new term which is called, I keep on calling, synthetic human. The companies, the technologies and the industry is moving very fast, as I was talking about. There are a lot of company who doesn't have that much of resources to talk to a actual user outside, because it takes a lot of effort, lot of time, plus the resource in terms of monetary amount. That's why a lot of industry product coming up which is called a synthetic human, which is a AI based human, which is trained on human and behave like a human in an interview kind of a thing. But as I said, it's a very new technology. I'm not sure how well it is, how optimized it is. But yes, the industry is looking into that, how quickly you get the feedback for your design, so that you can go to the market and see with the actual user, which is there. On the right side, you see the video. It's a tool called as Loop Panel. I have used it personally, not at a Google's capacity, but at my own personal capacity. And it's an amazing tool for anybody who does a research. I mean, it helps you to optimize everything. I was talking about synthesizing data and all. It does it automatically when you take interviews and those kind of things through this tool. So start again. This is an example of a tool, but there are hundred of tools present in the market. You start need to look around what helps you around that. Um, for a UX designer, I think we have more than thousands of tools, and this is just a for example, which is there. I mean, every day I keep on hearing a new tool which is designing at a screen level. Like for example, I know you people have heard of Stitch. It's a Google product again. I'm being using it for a very long time right now. Internal to Google is being launched very long back. We were kind of a beta tester for it. people say that okay, when Stitch released that, hey, designers are going to get replaced because Stitch is doing great and all. I don't know, but Stitch do have their own design team. So if Stitch can do that, then why Stitch need a, design team? So you are technically that like not replacing designer, but maybe you are helping to come out of something called as blank canvas. You may start with some head start around that using this tool, or maybe you can want to delegate some kind of redundant work. For example, you want to create a login screen, and you know that it's a very like standard process, you don't want to design, and maybe this tool can help, but you focus more into a different screen, a listing screen kind of a thing. So start looking it into from that term, that how does it help in my work processes which is there as a designer. So you need to start looking into that perspective, which is there. And coming to AI, now AI have become a very big design material for us. Like if I tell you about the process in Google, I do work every day. I use AI every day to do my design processes. Now it can be at any capacity how it's there. So it became my daily process, or I would say design material, like how you use Figma or a design system. It is same now. Right now I have to use, I have to figure out what AI can do. Like 5 years back, it was like whenever I used to think about a idea that hey, this is the idea I have, engineering team used to come and like, hey, this is not possible, or PM used to come and like, this is not possible. But now we have moved beyond that. Our ideas are bit backward, the technology have moved very forward. Like for example, if you right now talk about any idea, it is technically possible with AI. So that's how the industry is changing. So we need to cope up with that. We need to start using it in our processes. That's why I call it as a design material, rather than a very specific thing which you need to use, which is there. So from AI, now we are moving to a lot of agents. Now, what an agent means, a basic fundamental difference between an AI agent and AI. It's more of that AI is a one-to-one kind of a task, which is like you give the task, it does it and comes back to you. Whereas an agent can do multiple tasks autonomously, and it can figure out what task to do next rather than your intervention, which is there. But it comes back to you. But when we are designing this AI agents, there are two very important aspect. We started working on more of a logic perspective, that when you are designing the agent, see, it's not a screen again, it's a logic. As a designer, I start building around that, what kind of interaction makes sense for a user, and where exactly we need trust and transparency, which is there. So because we are talking about that we are in a era of AI. The thing is, if I give every capability, there is a challenge that tomorrow your bank account password is leaked and your entire bank account is zero. Whom will you go and kind of put a blame on, the AI or whom exactly? So that's the reason trust and transparency, safety is a very big aspect going to come in future around AI and AI agents. So as a designer, we started looking into, we called that, like we have different checks to when we work on AI, that how do we build those things around it. Um, Coming to computational shift, I was talking about, we moved to a classical design. We were in a classical design, designing screens and those things. We are moving to a more of a computational design. We are figuring out more of a like dynamic logic, how do the system interacts around it. And then we are moving to, as I said, AI native design, which is more about how do you build those logic, how a thing works with a prompt, how the conversation model works, or how the assistive model works in the future. So that changes my entire design processes. Like if I say like 6 years back or 7 years back, how I used to design, I have completely moved out of that design process, which is there. And also with that, one of the very interesting thing, which right now is like a fire in the market, is called as vibe coding. Every other person is talking about vibe coding, and every person thinks with vibe coding either you will be replacing a designer or you will be replacing a front end or a back end coder. um, my take with vibe coding is slightly different. and I'm going to talk about it how exactly. Um, just to give you a kind of a bit of reality check. I am not doing a vibe coding because I have to do it. Everybody is doing. But if it's adding a meaningful thing to my process, like for example, right now at Google or Microsoft like company, we use vibe coding to do a rapid prototyping. Like previously, as I said, it's not a linear process. There was a time when you used to design screen, go to user, talk to user, and then figure out the thing. But right now, you can basically make a prototype before even designing, start the designing process, and get a validation from the user from a UX perspective, architecture flow, and then basically start with a canvas. So it's bit reverse right now, how it is. But how do you achieve that? Previously you had to call a developer, talk to a developer, and tell, hey, can you make this thing as a prototype and all. Right now you have the power with the vibe coding. So that's where it's making sense, which is there. You have to show kind of an interaction. Making an interaction in Figma is a hell task. Like I have been working in prototyping for a very long time right now. I think half of my life goes into prototyping, considering I have to design so many screens to show. But with vibe coding, I think it's a away from a prompt, which is there. So that's how it's helping him in my process. But from a thinking that I'll replace a developer, I don't know how much you can do. Not in today's world, maybe 5 or 10 down the line. I don't know how the future is moving, but I don't see it's happening around it, with this. But just to give you an example, so right now the presentation also I'm doing is actually vibe coded, because I don't wanted to invest too much time in Figma, because I would have not able to create this kind of interactions, the page movement, the animations. I used anti-gravity personally myself, and I created this with the entire prompt plus the content I wanted to put around. I come across the content, I give the content, and rest is the job of the AI to basically help me figure out what's the best structure. Plus, also this hosted in Git. I have learned Git in my college times. Not after that, it's very difficult for me to use Git again. But this vibe coding, the AI actually helped me to bridge the gap. Like it helped me to push into the Git, make it like so. That makes a difference. But I'm not expecting to create a website tomorrow. But it's helping me in different my processes, optimizing my processes. Uh, Again, the ecosystem, these are just a very common tool which people are talking in the market. I have personally used all these through three tool, but there are 100 more, as I said, which is there. I personally use anti-gravity. Again, it's a Google's product, not because of that, but it's because of that it helped me a lot with vibe coding, and I feel it's a for a designer who doesn't have so much of technical knowledge, it helped me a lot in terms of vibe coding or creating something. But yeah, definitely feel free to use something and figure out what can optimize your processes. So the ecosystem is keep on increasing. So you need to be up to the ecosystem, that what are the things which is there in the market. Um, as I said, rapid prototype concept testing is a very common thing, which is there. Start using in your design process and see whether it helps you to get to some decision before you actually create something in Figma. Like if you can test it with some user, get some good feedback, and then come to Figma and then make it. So it saves a lot of time for you also. So that's how we say AI enabled designer. When Microsoft is writing in their job description AI enabled design, it doesn't mean that you have to have work on AI, but are you using AI in your processes to optimize, make yourself faster, which is there. But we talked about so much about AI, but I think where is the human in this entire element? And that's the most interesting and important thing which every company is looking around in their interview processes or the people they hire, which is more about where is the human element in the world of AI, even if we are using. Um, I think one of the important thing which is there as a designer, my responsibility is to basically train the AI into the best of our humanity, not the worst, because AI is something which get trains on everything. So you need to, as a designer, find out what's ethical, versus what's not ethical, and what needs to be learned versus what doesn't needs to be learned. It's a power which doesn't have any kind of guidelines. But as a designer, your job is, when you're working on AI product, what are the guidelines you wanted to put, what are the safeties you wanted to put around it, which is there. um, Coming to the irony, I think when you just use AI for the purpose of using it, it becomes very robotic. Because, for example, you go to every day or in the office, you see a summarized version in your Gmail of the mail. Today, you will find a reply, also automatic reply written with the AI. You just click on it, send it without understanding so much of context. It's more of that you're validating something, like a robot is giving or a AI is giving you something and you're just validating. But the question is, if you keep on doing that, tomorrow I remove you, does AI need you technically to validate? No, it doesn't need it validate, because some designer who have designed have put that guardrails that you need to go to the user and ask for a validation. But if I remove the guardrails, then technically you are replaceable with the AI. So you need to think, how do you do that? I mean, as I was talking about, like just doing it vibe coding just because you wanted to do it, or you really need a optimized process, that kind of thing. So there is definitely a downside of, as I said, outsourcing AI. That's where I talk about something called as principle of being human. It's more about AI helps me to find out more about my thinking. Like, for example, I'm thinking A, and AI helps me to figure out the perspective of B, C, D, which is there. But if you just tell that, hey, figure out everything for me, then technically you will be not relevant after some time. So that's why I say connect direct to the idea, like where you are there. Figure out that you are to the core of the problem you wanted to solve with here. You know the problem, what's there. Don't just outsource. Try to figure out, okay, how it's helping to expand my vision. Like when I was working in this presentation also, I had some idea myself, but I asked more about what else I can do, what are the kind of interactions I can do, those kind. How can I optimize the presentation? It helped me to expand my idea. And then it's more about reflecting in your processes. You do XYZ with AI, you figure out that you skipped some processes. It helps you also to understand when the processes you do, what makes sense versus what's not making sense. So you are reflecting on more about your processes, what are the design processes I use. You are not just automating with an AI that, hey, blindly automate something. That's not so. It's very important to be there, at this point, that you are very connected to AI, at a core, at an idea level, because what there is a research again done, and we know that if you're just using AI blindly, sometimes your critical thinking reduces, the capacity of having a critical thinking. So that's why we say that use it as a partner, and use it more like from an aspect of execution specifically, but not from an ideation or a complete vision perspective. That's something you bring value into as a human, which is there. Um, Coming to, this is a very common pyramid which I talk about, that the world, the industry's changed into this pyramid right now. I say execution and generation comes to a very bottom, where you want it to be fast, cheaper, and generate something. So give it to AI, which is there, because it became commodity more than a high value item for you. It doesn't need a critical thinking or a human, maybe. This is the section where maybe you are a supervisor, more kind of a thing, where you figure out that what to curate, what makes sense versus what's not making sense. And maybe some part AI is doing, which is there. And this is the core part, which is I call this as a very high value right now in the industry, where you start thinking about strategy, integration, which is there. Because when somebody is saying that, hey, somebody, like the AI is replacing, technically AI is not replacing. Somebody who sits in this top funnel actually replacing somebody who's sitting in the bottom funnel. That's the only difference. I don't see AI is replacing, but somebody who knows the AI is definitely replacing. So I would say focus more into this area, because with time, the bottom two things is going to be more of a, as I said, outsource, but strategy will always remain, from a human perspective. Um, with that, before ending, I just wanted to put this thought, again, as I said, how the AI is shaping the future, it depends on completely this question. It's more about that what would you rather have from an AI, that it's a tool that thinks for you or a tool that makes you think. I mean, this is a very important question, and answer to this is more of the future for you as a like using AI. And it's a very common thing. There are a lot of research happened around this, so definitely do a thinking about it, because I cannot define your future with AI. It's more about you define yourself by how you are integrating your process into the processes, how you are optimizing the processes or automating it. So yeah, I mean, this is the thing which I wanted to put across everybody to think about once you go back and see your processes around. And with that, yeah, I mean, you can connect me over different places. And again, thanks for being here in the session. I hope I added some value, but yeah, I'm open to answer any questions you have, anything. So yeah. Smriti, do you have any questions which I want me to answer?
Yes, like one question got posted in the chat section. It was posted by Ishika Sen. She asked, "Ki, as a UX designer in the current AI situation, what skills should we prioritize to stay relevant in an AI first design landscape?"
Awesome. Sounds good. I mean, very important question. I think I keep on hearing this question very often, which is there, what skills? Uh, from my perspective, again, I may think in a very different way. I feel start and having a skill set which is called as learn and unlearn. I mean, it's very important because, as I said, the industry is keeping on changing. Like new tools are coming into picture. Like for example, I started with Photoshop, then I moved to XD, then I moved to Sketch. Now I'm working on Figma. If I'm stick to a very specific tool or specific skill set, then maybe somebody who's know the new thing will definitely replace me. But I had the skill set that I have to quickly learn maybe Sketch, and then when Figma comes, unlearn Sketch, and then again relearn Figma. That's important. So in today's world, we talk about a lot of AI. Maybe you have to quickly learn AI, and then maybe tomorrow, if a new thing comes, you have to maybe unlearn AI and figure out the new thing. So that's the most important skill set in the interview. Also, when we talk Google's interview, Microsoft interview, we try to check that. If we don't maybe anchor to a very specific skill set, but we try to check that how much you are open to learn a new thing versus leaving the old processes. I mean, it's a very common term you must have heard in the industry. It's called a growth mindset or learning mindset. That's what we start looking into. But if you wanted to see a very specific tool or skill set in AI, I would say start looking around your processes, which is there. Maybe at Google, I'm talking a lot about AI because that's how the our company is moving forward. But maybe at your company or segment, maybe you are working for financial company, it is possible that there's something else which is there. So as a designer, you need to prioritize those things, that hey, I want to learn this, which is there. But try to figure out how do you optimize your processes. I think optimizing processes is very important. So yeah, I mean, I hope that answers your question. uh, I see another question. Thanks for giving us the insight. Which kind of tool you're working on Google? Y- I cannot share the name of the all the tool, but I can talk a bit about more. One of the tool is hiring. So hiring means when you apply to Google, all the processes happens through different tool. And when we try to create an opening outside also, where you go and apply technically, or the recruiter calls you and you submit your resume, and the entire process happens interview. So it's a very big tool technically. That's something I work for, and it's an AI driven and agent driven tool, which is there. Another tool I cannot talk about much about it. It's a very confidential tool, but it's something where we are experimenting with AI to automate 90% of the some processes, which is there, and keep human as just in the loop. because we figure out that it's a very manual processes. We don't need effort of somebody to just sit and do those processes. Those are the tools which I work on. There are a couple of more, but yeah, I mean, very confidential. But recruitment is something which is very common and open to everybody, which is there. So yeah, I mean, that's the process tools I work on. Okay. So what's the optimized process? Prototype and the design? Okay, I think great question. I should have mentioned in my talk that for me, optimized process is prototype and then design. That's the new optimized process for me, very specifically, because it helped us to reduce the number of screens in Figma and figure out that, okay, this is the path we wanted to take, like some kind of a guidance. Because previously, when I used to jump into Figma, it's more of a blank screen, and then I figure out that XYZ path, so what exactly I should design the flow on. But prototype helped me. But it doesn't mean that's the only optimization. There are a lot, as I talked about, secondary research is an optimization, plus something like I was when I was in Microsoft, we had to do a lot of consistency check because we have a global team. Every designer needs to follow a certain design guidelines plus the design system. But as a designer, when you're working on the Figma, sometimes you break the component and you change the color. Those kind of thing keeps on happening. So I worked on something a Figma plugin which actually helped me to figure out with the help of AI that where exactly I have broken the element, where I have not used tokens, those kind of things. Before that, it was a very manual process. There were two people sitting, sees everybody's design, manually clicking and finding out that. And it was long back, like 2 years back, which was that. But the question was that also called as optimization in the process, because as a designer, you're optimizing your processes, you're saving a lot of time, and you're giving more time to your creativity, maybe which is more about thinking the UX part of it, which is there. So, yeah, optimization can mean that also. So, it's not always that you have to follow what I said about prototyping and design, then, but it can be different aspects. So, you need to see where you don't like the process. Maybe one of the skill set which I am a lazy person, and that helped me to figure out a lot of optimization because I don't want to do a lot of manual process, and that helped me to find out that can we optimize this with AI? So you can think about that from that perspective. The where you find it's like keep on moving, keep on same thing you are doing, keep on doing. So yeah, I mean if that can help around it. Uh, okay, another question on the AI. What should we go? UI, UX, SD. I'm thinking. Okay. Uh, First of all, UI UX. I know a lot of people have a misconception about UI/UX something. Okay, just to give you from an industry point of view, there is nothing called as UI/UX. It's more about UX designer. It's more about UX researcher or a visual designer. Uh, Coming to UI part, UI is a part of UX design, which is there, and it's more about maybe you're designing some screen. A lot of people talk about that. Coming to UI, I don't know how much sustainable it is because as I see, keep on new AI tools coming into the picture. I know there will be some kind of UI. It's not that everything will be automated, but I know that we are trying to automate a lot of things, which is there. Like for example, we don't start with a blank canvas. So as I was talking about, we have started implementing, like for example, in Google anti-gravity for a designer. So what we do when we do prototyping, and then what happens, we figure out that okay, this is the design maybe we wanted to design more on. We push back from the code to Figma now. So it's a two-way process. You design it and then push back to Figma. So now you have a start canvas. You have something which is already present without any design, and then you start working on those design and refining more into it. So I don't see UI is a core, like we'll start from zero, but maybe we'll start from 40, 50 kind of already built in thing. Plus, if you look into, we use a lot of design system, all the big companies. So technically, it's not that the UI you completely every time design the buttons, the way of looking, it's always consistent. You don't have that kind of liberty that you are designing completely a new screen unless until you are not working on a new product or a new startup kind of a thing. So which is there. So I don't see UI as a very specific, but UX. Coming to SD, It's a completely different path which is there. And again, I said I was SD software developer a long time back. I started my career with that. It's two different part. Both the part have kind of its own career. It's not that something is going to be bad versus something is not going, that kind of a thing. It's more about you do a being a MBBS versus engineer, or some other marketing or MBA thing which is there. So both have its own path. SDs also started using AI into their processes. Like you have heard, a lot of code are being now written by AI. It's called as assistive AI, which is more about when I write a code, and some part of maybe 20-30% of the code is being written by the AI, and then it helps me to fix the bugs also. That's the path SD is going. So same as UX, SD is also improving in their processes. So you need to figure out what, it's a complete separate path. It's not going to merge completely. I see in future, it will always be separate one, which is there. Okay, another question. Experience at Microsoft, and I'll go. What different designer who actually hired versus those who don't? Yeah, I mean, important question. It's itself is a topic about. I talked a few months back in NID Bangalore about this. That what gets you hired versus what don't gets you hired. I'll tell you before that. It's a very interesting fact to understand that when we release one opening at a Google, because I work for the recruitment team, I know the data. It's at least 10,000 application we see. So one of the challenge for us is also that how do you find out that one person out of 10,000, because there will be definitely more than 100 good designers for sure, which is there. Now the question is, how do we get that one person out of the, again, 100, 500, or 1,000 designers, good designers? So from a case study point of view, I say that you need to be bare minimum, like fundamentally strong, good case study, which is there, that because that's a core of your understand design skill set, which is there. But for example, you have met that criteria. Now the question is, there are now six other criterias to get into it, and one of them can be AI, which not AI, but it's more about how do you upskill yourself with the time. Like we wanted to talk about, in your design processes, have you optimized anything? What kind of a thing you have done? Maybe some kind of a leadership skill set. Have you taken some kind of a decisions for that? Then comes around behavioral interview, where we try to figure out how good are you in terms of working with the team. For example, PM engineering, how good listener you are, how many time you have listened to PM or engineering when you worked on your design. We don't want a designer who worked in silo. To be very frank, in industry there is no use of silo designers. We want a triad structured designer who works with the PM and engineering very closely, and that's what we evaluate in the interviews also. Which is there are questions around it. How do you work with the PM? What are the things you have learned from the PM, taken into your design, evaluated? So I think that keeps you different from that, but that doesn't guarantee you a job into these companies, because as I said, 10,000, like one position. Also there is a factor luck. I would definitely not deny there is some aspect of that also, which comes into picture. But my question is, that's not under my control. So let's talk about what's under the control. And these are the things: you work on your case study, you work on your more of your other skill set, because that's important. That's why there are around 6-7 round depending on the company. One of them is portfolio, and the rest is basically evaluating other skills you have, and that comes around those kind of a skill set which is there. So yeah, and maybe AI can be also one of the skill set which is there. So definitely people want to right now look into designers, like how you're optimizing with AI into your picture, plus maybe if you're working on some kind of a AI. So that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's all the question I see.
Any more question, guys? I guess like not so. That brings us to the end of today's session. First of all, I would like to thank you so much to Sujit for sharing your insights and like experiences with us. It was truly an insightful session, and thank you everyone who joined us today and made a time for this session. We hope you're taking something valuable, learning and perspectives. Have a great Saturday, you all, and we hope to see you at our future events. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.